Welcome back to RGR Football. This is Ryan going rogue, the name of the channel, as well as myself, all by my lonesome today, because today is Chiefs by the numbers for Week 6 against those Buffalo Bills. A game that was a great departure for the Kansas City Chiefs in that the running game became the focus for a night anyway. We're going to explore that, and it'll show you the benefits that really paid off against the Bills in a lot of these stats that we're going to go over. Some unique, some that we track every week. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you hit the like and the sub and the bell notifications so that you know when something new comes out, because we're constantly doing something. You'll have live stream videos with myself and Dan Harms, other guests. We have all kinds of in-depth stats. We have film reviews. We have live chats, all kinds of things. The Q&A for the fans is on Monday nights. It's an hour long filled with your questions, so don't miss that as well. And then we have the game plan video for the next contest, as well as the Kingdom Corner over the weekend to get you ready for that football game. Today, we have to look at what was the biggest departure for the Kansas City Chiefs in quite a long time, the most run play call by the Andy Reid's era, and it leads into a number of the stats that we track early on. And the big thing here is that for the first time, the run was the emphasis that allowed them to actually gain ground in terms of their yards per play. This is an offensive stat only that tracks just how much the output is. And it's not just, is it an offensive matchup? Is it a receiving matchup? Or in the case of this Monday night or Monday afternoon game against the Bills, where the run game was clearly evidenced. Now, it could be a number of factors, whether it was the rain, whether it was the lineup that the Bills chose to put out there, whether it was the time change. All these factors played into the fact that despite going run heavy and calling more runs than passes, they were able to increase their yards per play output. This is very key because it was windy, and I think that was probably the biggest factor in limiting what they were doing downfield, as well as what we've seen become the trend against the Kansas City Chiefs is the full depth coverages, cover threes, cover fours, a lot of mixes where you're getting like a 6 coverage with 2 guys playing a cover 4 and 1 guy playing a cover 2. It gives you some flexibility back there, but it limits what you can do deep. That's why you see the numbers for Tyreek Hill being down a little bit. But this is a measurement of the offense itself, and they were still able to improve from last week, just a paltry 0.1 yards per play, but that is important. The bigger stat is my favorite one that I track every week, and this comes in as something that really shows the health of the offense overall, and that is the number of opportunities. This is a numbers game. Time of possession goes into this. How efficiently you're moving the ball goes into this, and certainly the play call. And being that it was the time of possession was in the Chiefs' favor, they were calling more runs. There were only 9 opportunities, 9 drives that they had the chance to score on. The difference being is that they scored on 5 of them, much like they did earlier in the season, even against lesser numbers, lesser opportunities against the Bills than they had earlier in the year. So likewise, their percentage goes up. So being able to score on over half of your drives is certainly a boon. They got 3 touchdowns out of it. You'd like to see that come up a little bit more for what is such a high-powered offense, but this is really something week to week that we see a plus 21 here. That is a nice, sizable change over what was a week that they really wish they had had back against the Oakland Raiders. That contribution comes in a number of different ways, and one thing that I like to track, especially for this class, because there were so many specific holes going into it, and the number 1 draft pick being a guy that has now been featured and certainly was against the Buffalo Bills. This is the number of snaps that the rookies play each week. And this is once again down a little bit, down 11, and that is mostly due to injuries, both in the negative for the rookie class, but in the positive for some of the veterans coming back. You saw a number of things go on. Wharton's numbers were down. Willie Gay's numbers were down in terms of overall snaps. The only one who held steady were Townsend in the kick game, as well as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who led in the snaps for the running backs. Couple of key additions, though. Yasser Durant played 5 snaps in this game. Bo Peep Keys played 8 snaps in this game. So even though this looks heavily on the offensive side because of Clyde, the overall, and I do put special team snaps in with the offensive snaps, the defense is coming back, and we're starting to get a bit of a balance there as well. Overall, it's down a little bit, but we're getting back to seeing more play. L'Jarius Sneed will be back eventually. Mike Danna will be back eventually, and I do expect that with the injury to Alex Okafor, that Turk Wharton's snaps will go back up. And that leads to what we have to get from those snaps. And it's not just the rookies, but it is the vets. And this was probably the best game that I've tracked in a number of seasons in terms of what pressure was generated. Now, this wasn't a sack game. They didn't get one. They got 6 hits according to PFF. And Pro Football Focus is the source that I use for some of this information, this stat in particular. And on the day, generating 26 total pressures. Now, some of those can come on the same play, but this is a ratio. This is pressure versus the number of dropbacks that the quarterback takes. And we saw that Josh Allen did do a couple of design runs. So those don't count as a drop back. We're actually trying to see that the number of times that he had to drop back to either pass, attempt one, or had to scramble out of it as a run that was not intended to be a run. So this 84% pressure rate is incredible. And this, again, was, I think, a direct correlation to what they had done the week before or hadn't done the week before in trying to get back on track and bring the house again. It was successful. We saw a lot of pressure from a number of guys, Chris Jones, Frank as well. But Willie Gay got a pressure on playing 3 defensive snaps, so that's something to keep an eye on. You see pressure come from different places. In fact, Alex Okafor, who went out with another hamstring injury, the opposite hamstring, unfortunately, he produced on nearly half of his snaps overall, and 6 out of 9 of his pass rush snaps he produced a pressure. That's a really key stat. That's why he's on this defense, even though he's not the big sack master that is always pointed to. Something to keep in mind when he does get a chance to come back. Now, on the negative, we did have a couple of hiccups. One being this stat, which is key to the health of the defense, much like the scoring drive metric is to the health of the offense. The number of missed tackles did creep up one more time, and we're getting into that range where we start to get concerned again. This isn't an alarm bell, but this is a warning sign. So they have to buckle back down. They have to make sure, despite what are some crafty runners in Singletary and Moss, and certainly Josh Allen, they're going to have to buckle down next week. Luckily, they get the Jets, and I think that's going to be something that self-corrects quite evidently. And that brings us to the big key right here that really totaled the game up nicely, and that is the balance. The weight of each side of the offense returned to what is a healthy balance. It was not the week before. If you missed last week's BTN, you can check that out. It was drastically in the favor of the passing game, and that was part of the issue. Now we see a balance, and the pendulum's even swung a little bit past that. At the end of the day, 34 dropbacks were called. Mahomes did scramble 8 times, so you have to kind of adjust that because those weren't design runs. There were 2 that were RPOs that he chose to take the ball and run it himself. So the balance actually swings back in the favor of the running game, where 38 calls were called as runs. And that really brings you back over the 50% mark, which is rare for Andy Reid. This is the most that I've tracked in the last several years. I want to say that 2014 had a game very similar to this that did spark the offense and keep the defenses honest for the rest of that season. And that's something that this game is going to do as well. I think they're going to have to continue that. We're going to talk about that coming up as to what the philosophy is going to be going forward. There's some keys that I'll give you in an upcoming video that'll kind of show you where they're going to be at. I don't expect this. This over 50%, I think, is a bit much for Andy in particular, but in general, this is a really nice thing to see. When you're able to get these results, it helps you continue to call a balanced play call sheet, and that shows you what they were able to do. I like the development. We'll see what they do going forward. Let me know what you think. Which of these is the most important to you? What do you track? And how happy are you with the balance of the offense in particular? Leave your comments down below. That'll let us know what you're thinking, and we'll try to have a nice conversation in there. If you are not subscribed, go ahead and click that like and the subscribe button and that bell notification. Then you'll know when something goes on. You do have to turn it on your device so that you get notifications. That way you'll know and be in the know as we move forward. Tomorrow we will have film for you. We will have rumor for you. We'll have a number of adjustment videos to give you an inside clue as to where this team is going. So please hit the sub. Don't go away. There is a ton coming for these Kansas City Chiefs. We appreciate you watching today, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more. and subscribe to RGR Football.